If you're looking for setting up Google Analytics 4 for the very first time, you have landed on the right video. In this GA4 tutorial, we will walk you through the interface, standard reports, funnel explorations, and how to set up GA4 in a proper way. But before moving ahead, if you're first time to the channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with GA4, Tag Manager, Looker Studio, and more. Alright, so let's first understand Google Analytics 4 in detail. It is a new feature that came out of beta in October 2020, and you can also call it App plus Web Property, as it can collect information from both the website and app, which can help you better understand the customer journey. Another important update here is that the basic version of Google Analytics, which is the Universal Analytics, will stop processing new data from July 1, 2023 this year, but you will still have the access to historical data for the first 6 months after that date. The data will be gone after then, and GA4 will become the sole Google tool accessible for monitoring website activity. Now you must be wondering, how is it different from UA? First of all, GA4 is built on a completely new architecture, and you can see that here. This is the old UA interface and this is the new GA4 interface. But we'll discuss this in detail in the upcoming videos. As you know, UA is a web-only platform and GA4 is a combination of both web and app, but there are many other key differences between these platforms as well. Such as the UA follows the concept of a session-based data model, which is essentially a series of page views, events, and transactions. On the other side, GA4 is built around the concept of events and follows a flexible event-based data model. Here, all the interactions are stored as events that can be anything from page views, button clicks, form submissions, and even transactions are all events. Also, UA has limited cross-device tracking, but GA4 uses first-party cookies and signals to enable cross-device data collection and reporting. The system deduplicates users across devices by using the best available user identifiers, which makes cross-device tracking easy and more precise. We'll talk about this in depth in the later videos. Another key difference is the predefined reports. UA has a lot of predefined reports like audience demographic reports, technology reports, source medium reports, etc. But GA4 has limited predefined reports. However, the advantage here is the flexibility. It has greater options in the exploration section to create custom reports, which is also one of our favorite sections in GA4. There is also limited flexibility in audience creation on the UA side, but a much greater option to define and segment audiences in GA4. And last but not the least, there's limited automation in UA, but GA4 uses powerful machine learning to improve and simplify insights discovery. So it certainly makes sense to switch to GA4 as soon as possible if you haven't done yet, because the longer you leave it, the more data you will have in your account. And with this tutorial, we'll help you do that. The first step is to log into a Google Analytics account. Once you are logged in, you will see this screen, Universal Analytics. Let's say you don't have a GA4 account as of now, so you just need to go to this admin section on the bottom left, and then you'll see this screen. So there are two ways to create GA4 account. One is you can click here, create property. The another way is you can click on GA4 setup assistant, and you'll see these options here. Either you can select an existing GA4 property if you already created one of those and just click on connect properties, or you can create a new GA4 property by clicking on get started. All right, so let's click on create property. So now we are here. We just need to add our property name. Let's say I type analytical minds, and we can add the reporting time zone. We can add the currency as well. So, and then we can click on next. That's on the property setup level. About the business, we can select any one of these. What's the category of a business and the business size, as well as some of the other options to select here. But we can skip. This is not mandatory part, so we can just go to the next section. Or if you want to select, you can just select one of these as well. Small, art, entertainment, or any other things. All right, so let's click on create, and now we are here. Then you'll see this specific window, start collecting data, which is the data stream window. You can just go back from this button, and here you can see the admin panel, which is basically the admin panel of GA4. So we have these settings. One thing to note here is, like in the Google Analytics 3, there was 3 columns, account, property, and view. But in the GA4, there's only like 2 columns, account and property. And as of now, there's nothing on the view side. So that's one thing to note here. Coming to the account level, so we have all these settings. At the top, you can see we have admin and user. So you can change a couple of settings here, like what's the default date range of the graphs and the charts. Like to keep it 7 days or 14 days or 28 days or 30 days. And then you can change some email communications from here as well. And then we have these email analytics as well. So if you want to opt in for performance suggestions from the GA side, so you can tick these options as well. Then we need to go to the admin section and let's understand the admin panel here. First, we have the account settings. If you go here, you can see account ID, you can change the account name from here, and you can change the country of business as well. Then we have data sharing settings. If you want to give permission to the technical support, let's say you find some issues with your account. So whether you want the technical support from the Google side to look into your account and, find the solutions to those technical issues, you can give the permission directly from here. And then you have one option to move this account to the trash can, basically delete the account directly from here. The second option is the account access management. Here you can give the permission to a specific user or the user group. So you can just click here on the plus icon and select add users. Just add the email ID of the person that you want the account to be shared. You can also select the standard roles as well. So if you want the person to be at the viewer level or the analyst level or maybe at the admin level, you can select from here. And one of the options that GA4 provides here is the data restrictions, which could be useful. Let's say you don't want the person to look at the revenue metrics or maybe at the cost metrics. So you can restrict this specific data from that specific email ID. Okay, coming back to the admin panel. So here we have all filters now. So all the filters that you applied on the Google Analytics 3 property, you'll see that here if you already have that account. And you can see that here displaying filters for universal analytics properties only. So then we have account change history by someone else or by you. You can just look at the data here and see the changes. And then we have this trash can option again here. So that's on the account side, and it's pretty much similar to what we have in Google Analytics 3. The main difference comes at the level of property, which is kind of unique. And there are some additional features in GA4 property section. So let's get started with this one. So first we have setup assistant here. If you click on it, it's basically work like a checklist for you that GA4 provides. Like we have collect website and app data here. Then we have turning on Google signals and setting up conversions. So it's like a checklist to do all the work in the GA4 and link it to Google Ads and work on all these different features to get the most out of our new property. Then we have this property settings on the left, and where we can change the property name and select the industry category, reporting time zones, and currency as well. We also have an option to move this to trash can directly from here. And this is for the property. The earlier we saw in the account setting was for the account level. So this is for the property level. And similarly, we can see here as well, the account level access management was to give the permission for multiple properties. There could be like 3-4 properties that you have in your account. So you can give the permission to multiple properties from this account access management level. But in the property access management, it's basically for this one property only. So you can just give the permission to view or at the admin level for this specific property from here, adding users, adding the email address and selecting their role, and maybe restricting them from cost or revenue metrics. Then we have this option called data streams. So once you click on it, you'll see this window, and you can actually create multiple streams based upon platforms as well. So you can have like one stream for website, one stream for Android app, and another stream for iOS app. So let me click on web. And then I can see this window. I just need to add the website URL here. I can add my website URL and select the stream name. So once this is selected, I can just create the stream from here. But before that, we can see this option called enhanced measurement. This is kind of unique in GA4 because in addition to like page view measurement, this can actually track other interactions as well automatically, like scrolls, outbound clicks, and video engagement and form interactions, etc. And if you click on this gear option, you can go here and deselect or select any of the other options as well. And then one thing to note here is one stream can actually work for multiple websites. So you don't need to like create multiple websites here. So that's why, you can also select like general stream name here and use that stream ID for multiple websites as well. So let's just click on create stream. And then we can see this option where we can see the measurement ID. All right, so this is the web stream details. We have stream name, stream URL, and we can see stream ID and measurement ID. So now we need to use this measurement ID in order to install GA4 to the website. You can see this option here as well, view tag instructions. If you click on it, you can see different ways to install this tag, either manually or using Google Tag Manager. So that could be done as well. Or you can also use a website builder or a CMS in this case. All right, so then we have these other options as well. Enhanced measurement, we already saw that. And then we have modify events, create custom events. Basically, it's just an option to create events based upon a specific condition. Let's say if I go here and just type event name contains or equals, let's say page view. So it's gonna find the page view event in our website and gonna trigger if that condition matches. So yeah, we can build these events directly from here, and it could be like different parameters as well. Like for example, currency contains that, item brand contains that, item ID contains equals that, but the tag will fire or the event will fire when the condition matches, like parameter operator equals this value. So we'll talk about this in the later videos, but this is the option to create these events, and we can modify these events as well once we created the new events. Then we have this option measurement protocol API secrets. It's a bit advanced, so we'll talk about this in the later videos. And then we have Google tags. So this is basically an option to set up the cross-domain tracking, internal traffics. If you have an internal team which is working on your website as well, and if you want to exclude that internal traffic from the reporting, you can do that by configuring these tag settings from here and using these options, but we'll talk about this in the later videos as well. And then we have these tag instructions. So basically just we saw how to install these tags in our website using all the three options available. So that's on the web stream details. And then if you go to the event section, so this is basically the same that we just saw, creating events and modifying event directly from this event section. Whether you can go to the data stream and do that event modification or create events, or you can just click on event section here and create events directly from here using the condition and the parameters. And then we have this conversion sections. So here it says purchase marked as conversion by default. You can't really change that, but let's say you create a new event. Let's say you have a subscription business and you want to mark subscription as a purchase as well. So first you need to actually create subscription event here using data layers and all those things that we'll be discussing. Then you can just mark that subscription event as conversions from this last column. Once that event is created in this section, you can just mark it as conversion, and then that specific event, the subscription, will appear in this conversion section. And this is based upon your business, right? You could have a different event as a conversion. So it might not be purchase for you. It might be a lead for you as a conversion. And you can see the performance on the reporting side as well in a different column, like what's the performance of purchase versus what's the performance of subscription versus what's the performance of leads. So once you mark it as conversion in the event section. But yeah, we'll go through this in detail in the upcoming videos. Then we have this option called audiences. So GA4 already defined these audiences here, all users and purchasers, users who have made a purchase, or all the users. But you can define your own audiences as well by clicking on new audience button here based upon the different segments that you can create. There are some suggested audiences as well, like recently active users, non-purchasers, purchasers, or 7-day lapsed customers. 7-day, you can just click on it, and GA4 already created that segment for you, and you can just change the window membership duration from here, or you can change the trigger as well. And then we have this segmentation templates as well. So if you want to build audiences based upon demographics or technology or acquisition, based upon that you can select, let's say I select acquisition here, then you can select like first user source, it's FB CPC, medium CPC, or you can select different like Google as a source or campaign, a specific campaign one in your Google ad account, and medium as CPC. Then you can just build the audiences out of that specific campaign and use that audiences for retargeting. So that's the way to define audiences. But again, we'll discuss about this in detail in the next videos when we'll be talking specifically about audiences. And also we have this option called create a custom audience. So this is basically from scratch. So you can build like, there's like endless possibility to create audiences. You can just mix and match different things. Let's say you are someone coming from a specific operating system, someone coming from a different region. You can just build the audiences out of that and just push it to different platforms as well. Let's say you build audiences here and you link the Google ads directly to GA4, and you can use those audience segments in Google Ads and actually retarget those users. So yeah, that's on the audiences side. Then we have this option called custom definitions. Basically, it contains custom dimensions and custom metrics. So to understand custom dimensions, you first need to understand what is dimension. It's basically an attribute of a product or a user, and custom dimension is nothing but an additional attribute that we configure because the default report does not really cover that. For example, here, if you see that these three direct channel grouping is the dimension. So we have these attribute, and against that we have all these metrics. So these are the dimensions which are already available in this report, and these are the metrics which is already there in the GA4. But let's say if you want to cover or add any additional dimension which is not really available here, then you need to define that dimension at the admin section of the GA4, and that's what we call as custom dimensions. And similarly for the metrics as well, we have all these metrics, but if you want to look for something specific which is not really available in GA4, then you can create your own custom metrics and define that in the admin section of the GA4 and use that in this report. So basically we can just go here and click on create custom dimensions. But one thing to understand here is the scope. So scope is nothing but it defines to which event the dimensions will apply. Let's say if I click on scope here, we have two scope: event scope, user scope. So let's say if you want to create a new custom dimensions, you can create those dimensions for either event or users. In original Universal Analytics, there was actually 4 scope: user, session, hit, and product. But here you have only 2: event and users. So, and it basically defines where the dimension will apply. So here in GA4, it can only be applied on event or the user. To define these custom dimensions, we need to actually send these dimensions with every event using Google Tag Manager. And once that implementation is done, with the help of data layer, then we can use that dimension here. For example, let's say we have a product. We need to track product name, product category, product variant, and product sizes. So these 4 are actually the dimensions. And when the product is purchased, you also want these details to be fetched in Google Analytics 4. So you need to define these additional parameters in the data layer of, it could be on your Shopify website or WordPress. And then you can use these parameters or the attributes to define these custom dimensions here. So that's the way to do it. You can, you need to actually pass these information first in the data layer with the help of Tag Manager or directly in the code. And then you can use those parameters or attribute to create these custom dimensions here. And just like custom dimensions, on the custom metric side as well, we can pass this information and calculate some additional metrics, which is not really available in GA4 by default. But we can create this event in our data layer and use those custom parameters and create custom metrics here. This metric name must match with the name that we created in our Tag Manager accounts. So that's the way to do it. All right, so then coming to the data settings, we have these 3 options: data collection, data retention, and data filters. So first we have data collections, and here we have Google Signals data collection. So basically when you enable this option, you're actually telling the system to collect cross-device data and enable the remarketing options for the users. But this will only come from the user who have a Google ad account and have enabled the remarketing features. So we can click on it, get started, and click on continue, click on activate. Now the Google will collect information like, demographic informations like gender and age, and we can see that in the reports as well. So this is now enabled. Then we have this option called granular location and device data collection, and this is on by default. So analytics will try to look at granular location, like city level location data, so that we can see that in our report as well. If you want to learn more about this, you can click on this collect granular location and device data. And then we have this option called advanced settings to allow for ads personalization. This is off by default, by the way. And when we enable this option, we are exporting the Google Analytics audiences and conversions to the linked ad accounts for the purpose of delivering relevant and personalized experience for the users. And if you click on this gear option, you can see the locations. We can disallow some of these locations as well if you want to control the geolocation. And we can just go here on the acknowledgement section. We need to click on I acknowledge to get the user data collection enabled. And then we have this option called data retention, which is basically the retention period for data you send that is associated with the cookies or advertising identifiers. And if you're working on the exploration section here, not the standard report, because you can see here, these controls don't affect most standard reporting, which is actually based on aggregated data. So this is directly affecting the explore section custom reporting. So whenever you go to the custom report, you'll be able to work with the 2 months data only. But let's say if you want to look for last 1 year data, you can go here and change it to 14 months, but it can't really go beyond 14 months. So if you want to look at the data for the last 2 years, you can't do that. But it's not affecting the standard report, so you can still look at the data for the last 2-3 years in the normal standard reporting. But when you're creating your custom reports, data retention period is either 2 months or 14 months, and this is by default 2 months. So whenever you go to the custom report, you'll only see the data for the last 2 months. So the way to change that is go to the admin panel, and in the data settings, you'll see this option data retention. Just toggle it to 14 months and look at the data for the last 14 months when you're working on your custom reporting site. And now we have this option called data filters, where we can see the data filters that we have defined in the data stream or with the help of Google Tag Manager, or you can create filters from here as well. So there are 2 filter type. We have developer traffic or we have internal traffic. And You can click on one of them. Let's say we go with internal traffic. So we can see these options here. We can name our data filter here. Then we have filter operations, either to include only or to exclude. And then we have this option called parameter name. If you note here, we can't really edit this part. So this is basically like defined GA4 parameter name. You can't really change that traffic underscore type, but we do have an option to change the parameter value. Then we have this filter state. So whether to keep it active, inactive, or testing phase. So you must test the filter first before setting it to active, because there's no option to delete the filter. So if you go here on the three dot, you can see either to activate or deactivate. So once the filter is created, you can't really delete it. You can either deactivate it or just keep it active. So to define a filter with the help of IP addresses, you need to go to the data stream section here. Once you click on it, you will see this data stream. Just click here and then go to this configure tag settings options. Once you click on it, you will see this window. Here you'll find this option called show all. Just click on it and then you can see define internal traffic based upon IP addresses. So you can click on here. Here you need to click on create, and then you will see this window where you can give it a name and just create a condition based upon IP address, whether to contain or IP address equals, and just use the value here, and we can just use it to exclude as a data filter in our GA reports. So that's the way to do it for the internal traffic, and this could be useful when when there are like multiple team members and working on GA properties and you don't want to look at that specific data or information. So that's on the data setting side. And then we have this option called data import, where GA4 allows us to create data source. We can just click here and just import data manually from CSV upload or using SFTP server. Let's say you have a file of non-Google ads products like Facebook ads or different ad platforms, and you want to import the cost data. You can just select the cost data from here and just upload that CSV file, and you can use that CSV file in GA4 and look at that cost metric against different dimensions and with other metrics as well, like revenue, and then calculate ROS CPA directly using this cost data. And you can also give it a name from here, and it could be for other data as well, not just cost. Maybe it could be item data or user data by user ID or user data by client ID. All right, so moving to the reporting identity. This is basically the method analytics uses to associate events with users. Like the user might have interacted with the business on, let's say, iPad and later converted through desktop or mobile app. So there's like a different platform and the different devices involved in this specific user journey. So, and each of these activities is a separate session. So basically to solve this issue, like GA4 uses different methods to unify them into a single cross-device user journey. And it uses these four identity options. So we have user ID, Google Signals, device ID, and model data. So if you click on blended, which is like a default option, GA4 creates a single user journey from all the data associated with the same identity and deduplicates users across devices, which makes cross-device tracking easy and data points are like more precise. So basically in the blended option, GA4 uses the user ID, but if there's no user ID collected, then the analytics will use the information from the Google Signals. But let's say if there's no information on user ID or Google Signals, then the analytics will use the device ID. And if no identifier is detected, analytics will use modeling. And then we have this observed. In this, it uses the user ID if it's collected, but if no user ID is collected, then the analytics will use the information again from the Google Signals. And again, if neither user ID nor Google Signal information is available, then analytic will go for device ID. So that's the key difference here. So here it will apply modeling, but in observe it won't be applying modeling. And if you click on this option show all, there's another option called device based, which only uses the device ID and ignores all the other IDs that are collected. But to get the full benefit of these two options, blended and observed, we need to activate the Google Signals and collect the user IDs. So that's what we did here in the data collection data settings. We enabled the Google Signals and allowed the Google Analytics to use these options. But one thing to note here is when the Google Signal is activated, Analytic will try to collect demographics and interest data whenever it is available. By available, I mean the signed in Google account users. So if there is no signed in users, you might see the data threshold and the exclamation mark on your report sometimes like this here. So this is just a consequence of that, and this just means that your reports are subject to data threshold. All right, so moving to the next option, then we have attribution settings. This is basically the reporting attribution model, which the standard reports are currently using. So this is cross-device data attribution model. So one thing I missed here in the reporting identity, this is basically retroactive. So once you change this, this will also change historical data, not just future data. So that's one thing to remember in this reporting section. All right, so yeah, in this attribution settings, we have this cross reporting attribution model. And this is basically to calculate the conversion credit in our reports within the analytics properties. So we have all these options available here: last click, time decay, position based, linear, first click, but the recommended one is data driven. And I think you should keep this recommended data driven attribution model only in the account. So yeah, these are all the reporting attribution model. And you can also see here, like, changing the attribution model will apply to both historical and future data. So once you change this to last click or first click, this will change the data on the historical date as well. So let's keep it to data driven model. And then we have the look back window. This will only apply going forward, not to the historical data. And we can see the changes in the reports once we change this settings. So the GA4 is recommending 30 days for acquisition conversion events and 90 days for all other conversion events. So what this means here is, let's say you started an ad on 1st of January and someone actually interacted with the business and landed to the website on 1st of Jan, but didn't purchase the product. But let's say user is still on a journey and interacting with different platforms like Instagram or Google. And then after 30 days, the user has purchased the product. So there's a time duration of 30 days that the user took to make that purchase. So basically here in the look back window, you're just looking at that time period. Here you can see the look back window determines how far back in time a touch point is eligible for attribution credit. And that's where the data driven model would make more sense as well. Let's say at the very first time, Facebook ad actually got us the user to the website, but the Google ad was the last interaction of that user. So the data driven model will look at all the touch points and will decide which specific channel actually made the most impact and just credit the specific conversion to that channel. So that's where the role of look back window and the reporting attribution model comes into the picture. So you can just keep it like as it is and click on save. And now we can move to the property change history section. So this is basically the changes that you made. You can just see here, if you or any of your colleague made the changes, you can have a look here and see what really changed on that specific time. And then we have data deletion request. So let's say you have a lot of details about that specific visitor and you want that detail to be deleted. So you can just schedule a data deletion request. Just click here and just delete all the parameters on all events or a specific user property, or you can just delete registered parameters, selected registered parameters from here and schedule the request, and then the GA team will make that action. And then we have this option called debug view. So this was originally in configure settings here, but now they have just recently moved it here. And this settings as well, this conversion events, they were all in the configure options here, but they recently moved everything to this property section. So as the name says, this is just for the testing purposes. So let's say we have a developer who's working on a specific tag and just testing, let's say purchase conversion, if it's firing correctly or not, then we just need to enable the development device. Let's say you're working on Google Tag Manager. So you can just go to the preview mode of the Google Tag Manager and actually do the test conversion on your website. Then you can start seeing the purchase conversion user details here and all the conversion events and hits that's happening on the websites, and then look at the data. And you can also see the parameters, all the things that are firing correctly or not. Let's say you are testing the purchase. You can also look at the parameters like product name, product variant, and product prices, all the other things directly from here. So this is just a way to debug events and test things if it's working correctly or not. But first you need to enable the debug mode on your development devices or on the Google Tag Manager. All right, so now we have the product links. So these are some of the options where you can link different products to GA4. Just click on link here, just select the Google Ads directly from here, and you can just select from here and click on confirm, and then it will be done. And similarly, we have these other options to link different Google products with GA4, like Search Console, Optimize, and Data Studio, and BigQuery, and then we have Ads Manager and these as well. And then we have this Analytics Intelligence Search History. This basically uses this search history here within analytics to improve searches and recommendations. So for example, if I click here, I can see like this is what I recently viewed. And based upon that, Analytics Intelligence is suggesting me these searches like revenue by device this year, what are my top countries by revenue, and what are my best selling products. So you can just have a look here at the browsing data and all the search history, Analytics Intelligence search history, and you can just select that, delete specific queries, or just have a look what's really happened in the past. Let's take a look at the GA4 dashboards and standard reports. On the left sidebar, you will see these 5 sections: Home, Reports, Explore, Advertising, and Configure. But GA4 is still under development, so you might see different sections here in the future, or maybe specific option move to a different place. All right, let's click on Home. This section can be used to track traffic, navigate through different charts tailored to your actions, View recently accessed details here and gain insights and recommendations about your websites and mobile apps. The more you use analytics, the more personalized the content on the home page becomes. We can't see any data here as this is a new property, but let's switch to the GA4 demo property provided by Google to see the data and insights. Alright, now we are in the GA4 demo account. Let's walk through the reports here. At the top, you can see this exclamation mark where it tells the Google Analytics has applied thresholding to one or more cards in the report. We talked about this in our admin panel explanation. Consider watching it if you haven't to understand why this happens. Next, we have this chart here. We can see the users, conversions, new users, and event count. You can switch any of these metrics from this dropdown. Let's say you want to track the performance for checkouts, then you can switch this from here, e-commerce, checkouts, or if you want to look for revenue metrics, then you can do that from here as well. This solid line shows the performance of the selected metric over the last 7 days, and this dotted line here shows the performance for the preceding period, meaning you can compare the performance from here and see if the solid line is improving compared to the dotted line or not. You can also click on this view report snapshot to see the detailed view, and it will take you to the reports section here. By default, these charts here show the performance for the last 7 days, but you can switch this to a different time frame from here, or you can also switch the default date range to the last 14 days or 28 days from the user section within the admin panel here. So let's go back to the home section. Now on the right side, you will see this real-time chart. This will tell you how many users were active in the last 30 minutes and the breakdown of users by each minute. Here it also shows the country-wise breakdown as a dimension, but you can switch this to a city, audience, or campaign, or you can just keep it to choose for me, where analytics will change this automatically depending on your past actions and view history. On the metrics side, we have users, but you can switch this to a new user as well, or keep it choose for me like the dimension. Moving further, we have this recently accessed card where the reports and pages you have recently viewed or visited will appear. Like here, we can see that I recently viewed traffic acquisition, demographics, user acquisition, events, and so on. Then we have this section called suggested for you. This might look different to you depending on the interest and activities in the account. Like here, we can see the user by country ID, session by channel grouping, and landing page performance. It shows the total number of event counts and the difference in the performance of the last 7 days compared to the preceding period. For example, this chart shows the number of users coming from the United States increased by 18.1% in the last 7 days compared to the previous period. There's some more suggestions here as well if you click on the next icon, and again, these might be different cards for you depending on your activity. Underneath that, we have insights and recommendations. These are automated insights using machine learning algorithms to provide insights around significant shifts that happened in the account or any unexpected behavior identified by analytics over time. Wherever you see this star sign, here the analytics intelligence uses historical data to identify anomalies in a specific metric over time. We can see here that the new user from shopping cart dropped from 18th to 24th of December, and you can see this circle here that tells you where exactly the anomaly is and what was actually expected based on historical performance. Let's say you have planned a 20% offer on any specific event. That significantly increases the total number of users to your website and improves conversions. In that case, GA4 might show you an anomaly point for that specific time because it's a sudden spike that does not match the expected value based on historical data. Like here, it says we forecasted that new user for the screen class shopping cart would be between 23 and 84. Your actual new users of 21 were less than this range. These kind of insights could be useful in finding the areas of gap and understanding the next steps. And then we have these custom insights on the right side as well. You can click on expand these insights or view all insights to see all the insights and take a decision on your paid channels or any other area based on this. If you go to the top section of the home page, you can also see this star sign at the top right, which also tells you the insights if you click here. And that's everything on the home section. Now let's move to the standard report. You can access these reports by clicking on the Reports tab in the left menu. In these standard reports, you can view older data as well, as they are not affected by the data retention settings, which can be set to 2 or 14 months that we discussed earlier in our admin panel overview. In the report snapshot section, on the top left, you will find the option to view data for all users. This means that all of these standard reports include data for all users as the audience source. And then there's an option to add comparison, which allows you to compare this data to other audiences. Let's say we add a new comparison here where session source medium contains Google CPC, and then we can see the comparison between all users and the users coming through Google Ads. This will apply to all of these standard reports, which allows us to see the difference in all the metrics in these two groups. All right, let me remove this now and let's move further. On the top right of the page, you'll find the data selector, which allows you to switch between different date ranges. And just beneath that, there's an edit comparison option that allows you to modify any of the comparisons that you made, such as changing the condition or the source. If you want to share this report or any customized reports that you've created, you can use the share this report feature to share a link or download the report. Then we have this insight feature that uses analytics intelligence to provide useful information such as what countries do my users coming from and trends of monthly users last year, etc. You can choose from these provided options or type your own questions into the search bar at the top. And then we have these bunch of charts here. So first we have user, new user, average engagement time and total revenue. We can see the difference here. And as I said before, we can add a comparison and see the difference for both the audience groups. Then we have users in the last 30 minutes just to see the snapshot of like how the users are performing and where the users are coming from. And then we have these insights section on the right, which is the same as what we discussed in the last video, home section, the automated insights as well as the custom insights that analytics intelligence provides to us depending upon our actions and interest in the account. Then we have these couple of more charts where we can see where the users are coming from, what are the top performing campaigns by source medium. And we can also change this with this drop down. If you're interested in tracking campaigns instead of source medium, we can do that from here as well. And on the side, we have users by country. And again, we can look for new users versus returning customers. And then we have some more important charts here, which is like the user activity by cohort, landing page performance here as well. This is basically a snapshot, as it says here, of these standard reports, lifecycle and the user collections. So it's just picking up some important reports snapshots here. And then we have some top events as well, followed by top conversion events, like whether it is view item or user engagement. And we can also see the detailed performance, or if you want to be interested in looking for all the performance of the conversions, you can just click on this view conversion section and it will just take you to the detailed card page. And also we have this filter here as well. So if you want to be interested in looking at like what's really happening here, so it says include conversion event equal to true. And then we have e-commerce purchase by item name. So what specific product is selling the most, and we can see the performance of each item here as well, followed by conversions by platform, like is it web or mobile device or tablet, which is performing well for us. So this is just an overview and the report snapshot of how the things are working. And let's move to the real-time report now. All right, so in the real-time report, you can see here the information about the number of users over the last 30 minutes, the total number of users per minute, and users by device. And here on this graph, you can zoom in and zoom out to see the exact location of the user. You can also click on this blue circle to see the detailed performance of that location, and it will automatically apply the comparison at the top, and we can compare this side to side with all users for all of these dimensions and metrics. Like here, all users versus this specific region. And if we go back underneath this graph, we have this user performance by sources, mediums, or campaigns. And then the user by audience, like non-purchasers, engaged users, etc. You can also switch this to new users to see the performance differences. Then we have the landing page that users engage with and the top performing page at the top. In this case, it is homepage. It might be different for you. On the right, you can see the events that users trigger, like page view or session start, etc. And what's the total event count against these dimensions. And then the conversions that users complete, like view card or view item. And then you can also see the users by user property. To get a snapshot of a random user's activity stream, simply click the button at the top and you can track every event triggered on your website by that random user, the location of the user, the app version, and the device details as well. If you click any of these events, let's say here, then you can also view the event parameters like session ID, page location to understand more about your users. And also we have this user properties on the right side as well. Once you're done with the analysis, you can click on exit snapshot and reach back to the real-time report. So that was it on the real-time side. And now let's move to the reports collection, where you'll be spending the majority of your time. We can see two collections here, lifecycle and user. The lifecycle collection mainly shows the different stages of the customer journey, from acquiring new customers to retaining existing ones. Here you will find insights into how people use website or application rather than information about individual users, which you will be seeing in this user collection. This collection contains all of these default reports, but you can anytime add any custom report to this navigation for easy access as well. So if we have acquisition, engagement, monetization, and retention, let's go through them all one by one. In Google Analytics 4, there are two types of acquisition reports, traffic acquisition and user acquisition. The traffic acquisition report provides insights into the sources and campaigns that bring new and returning visitors to your website or application. On the other side, the user acquisition report helps you understand the sources and campaigns that bring new users to your website or application for the first time. Both reports can help you determine where your new users are coming from, which campaigns are most successful in driving traffic to your website, and which channels are most effective. So let's start with the acquisition overview. Here you will see a bunch of charts. First, we have the number of users and new users performance trends. And again, just like we saw in the report snapshot, we can see the users in the last 30 days and by top country. You'll also see your top performing traffic sources for both session and first user. And if you have connected Google Ads and the Google Search Console to Google Analytics, then you will see some data related to those campaigns as well. Then there will be several additional widgets right here, like customer lifetime value. And that's everything on the overview side, and there's not much you can do here. So let's navigate to the user acquisition report. Here you will see a few charts and a table with more detailed information. The default dimension in this report is the first user default channel grouping, which means that it displays the traffic sources that brought visitors to the website for the first time. Even if a visitor initially comes to the website from, let's say, Instagram ads, but later returns through a Google Ads campaign, the second Google Ads session will still be attributed to the Instagram ads because it was the first user default channel grouping. But this is not the case with the traffic acquisition report, which we'll be discussing in a couple of minutes. Also, if you click here and see all the dimensions, you'll notice all the dimensions here starts with first. You can also click on this first user source medium to view the performance of the sources and mediums like Google CPC, Google Organic, etc. And to add a secondary dimension here, you need to click on this plus icon. Let's say you want to track Google Ads performance for different regions. Then you can add secondary dimensions from geography, country. And now you can see two dimensions and their performances. To filter this out to any specific value, for example, if you're only interested in tracking performance for the United States region, then you can type here United States. Or you can use this filter section at the top as well to create a segment of the region contains the United States. So that's the way to do that. All right. Then we have all these metrics here. First, we have this new users column to track the total number of new users, and then the engagement sessions to measure the number of sessions that lasted longer than 10 seconds, had a conversion event, or had 2 or more screens or page views. Moving further, we have this engagement rate, which is nothing but the percentage of sessions that were engaged sessions. And for you to know, the bounce rate is the opposite of the engagement rate, meaning it's the percentage of sessions that were not engaged sessions. And then we have the number of engaged sessions per user, like we can see here 1.22, 1.19, etc. Then we have average engagement time, which is the average length of time user interacted with the website or application. In the event count column, you have the option to choose any event from this dropdown and see the performance against the dimensions. So you can create all these events in the Google Tag Manager and pass these events to the GA4, and then you can track the performance of all these events, again different dimensions. And then we have this conversion column. All the events that you have marked as conversion will appear here, like purchases, subscription, or lead. And then on the right side, you can see the total value or revenue of that specific conversion. Like if I click on purchase from this conversion dropdown, then I can track the purchases and revenue from each of these channels. To expand the number of rows, you can either click on this arrow or change this row per page number from here. And finally, to customize this report, we need to click on this pencil icon. We can't see that here because we are in the demo account, but we can move to our own GA4 property, which we created earlier. And here we can see this pencil icon. We need to click here to customize the report. So if I click here, I can see the customize report option. So I have report data, report filter, charts, report template, and summary cards. So I have an option to change the existing report or create a new one from here. For example, let's say I click on dimensions and I can see all the dimensions here, which is there in the report table, but I can add a new dimension from here as well. Let's say I add gender or interest, so I can do that from here as well. Or let's say I remove one of these, first user Google Ads group name, so I can do that as well. I can click on apply and save this either to a new report or the current report. And similarly, I can do this for metric as well. Let's say I can't see the bounce rate here, so I can go to add metric and search for bounce rate from this dropdown, and then I can add this bounce rate from here and then click on apply. Or you can also remove some of the metrics which is not relevant to your business, or click a new one or a customized metric directly from here. So you can customize all this report through this customization section, and you can add or remove any specific dimension or metric. Or you can also add a filter from here as well. Let's say you're interested in looking at the information just for a specific reason, specific interest, or specific gender demographic. You can do that directly from here. And if I go back, so I can change these two cards as well. So let's say I'm not interested in looking at this chart report. So I can do that to scatter chart, or I can do that to bar chart as well, and click on apply. So it will change to bar chart. And then I have an option to change this secondary bar chart as well. Let's say I make it line chart. So I can do this as per my own preference. And then we have these summary cards. So I can go here and edit these summary cards. So if I'm interested in looking at something else, change the visualization or look at a different metric, then I can choose that as well. So these charts and these tables that you are seeing in the default user acquisition report is all customizable, and we can just look at this data and just edit or customize directly from here. Then I click on save and I can create a new report, or I can do that to the current report. For example, let's say I click on save a new report and I can just give it a name, user acquisition, and let's say test 1. So I can just look at this report and click on save, and then I can have a look on the dashboard. You can see how it looks on the UI side. Let's go to the report section, and within the lifecycle we can see the new report that we created isn't here. So to add that report, you need to click on this library section here. We can see all the collection here, and we can see our new report created, user acquisition test 1. And to add this to this acquisition section, we just need to edit this existing collection. So from here, edit collection, we can see all these detailed reports. So from here we can add this user acquisition test 1 to this acquisition and click on save to the current collection. So if you go back, we can now see our new customized report within the acquisition section of lifecycle collection. So that's the way to do it, and you can just create your own dashboards and create your own customized reports and just look at your own lifecycle collection in your own way. And to remove this, we can just go back to the edit collection and just click on remove this section. All right, so that's on the user acquisition side. Let's move to the traffic acquisition. If you note here, the dimension in this report starts with session rather than first user, as we saw on the user report. So if a visitor arrives at your website for the first time through Google Ads, for example, it will be displayed in the Google CPC. But if the subsequent sessions arrive from other traffic sources, then they will be added in one of these dimensions. The users in the user report refers to unique visitors or individuals who have visited your website. But here, the session refers to visits or the total number of times a person has accessed your website. So let's move to all these dimensions and metrics now. So we can see the same thing here as well. So we have different dimensions. We can change that from here. Let's say you're not interested in looking at the channel grouping. You can change this to source medium as well. And similarly, we have an option to change this to campaign, source, platform, source, or medium. So we can see all these metrics performance against Google Organic, direct Google CPC, and these values. And just like we saw in the user acquisition report, we have these two charts and all these metrics, user sessions and engaged sessions. And we can also change the events from here, see different events performances. We can change the conversion event from here as well, like if you want to track the performance for purchase or subscription. So all these things can be done here, and we do have an option to customize this report. If I go back to my own property, this is GA4 property. If I go back to the own property, I can see that we do have an option to customize this report from this pencil icon. And then we have this traffic acquisition, which is nothing but a different dimension. So now here we are looking at session, source, medium, and this is just on the landing page side. So this is a customized report. We can create a more customized report as well, as we just saw. So we can just, instead of using session source, we're using landing page performance here. So that's on the acquisition side. And now let's move to the engagement reports. In the engagement overview, you will find all of these default reports. At the top, you'll find the average amount of time an active user engages with the platform, the average number of sessions per active user, and the average duration of a single session. All will show data for this selected time period. And then you will see this user in the last 30 minutes section, where you can see the total number of users in the last 30 minutes and also the user per minute breakdown. And we can also see top pages and screens here, which tells the top performing landing pages by users. So we can see where the users are mostly engaging with, like home pages at 60. And then we have all these other landing pages. Moving further, we have views and event counts. So here we can see total views in that specific date range, and then the total event count. So it contains all the events here. If we count all of these events, then this number will come up to 2.1 million. And then we can see views by page title. So here we are looking at total number of views as per this date range, but at the top we were looking at the real-time data. So this is the difference between these two. And then we have user activity over time, where we can track the number of users on that specific day and prior to 7 days and prior to 30 days from that specific date. So this could be helpful in understanding like how many number of users are visiting every day, and if there's a big shift in the 7-day or a 30-day window. So these three lines can help you determine and actually give you information around user activity over time. And then we have user stickiness, which is a measure of engagement by active users over a shorter period of time compared to their engagement over a longer period. This can help determine how effectively users are retained over time, and with higher ratios indicating strong engagement and retention. And we can see these three lines as well, just to compare like if the ratio is going above or not. Like here, the weekly to monthly ratio is 28.1% versus here it was 16.2%. So it's increasing, which is a good sign. So the higher the ratio, which the better it is, and it indicates the stronger engagement and better retention. All right, so let's look at the event report now. So these are the events that you are sending from a website to Google Analytics. This includes automatic events such as page views and scrolls, as well as any custom event that you have implemented. But these custom events like view item list must be specifically added to your website by you or your developer. So later in these tutorial videos, I'll guide you how to set up these conversions and then measure the performance here. Now let's focus on conversions, where you'll find the actions taken by users, such as making a purchase or subscriptions or something that you have marked as conversions. Here you can also see the conversion related charts and the performance of each conversion in this table. And if you like to add a second dimension, you can do this from here. And if you want to customize this report, then that can be possible as well, like we discussed in our earlier video. Then we have this pages and screen. With this report, you can determine which pages on your website are most popular among visitors. You can also view statistics such as the number of users, number of views, and more. And if you're interested in looking at the page path or content grouping, then you can do this using this dropdown. All right, so that's on the engagement side. So now let's move to the monetization report. So if you have configured sales tracking on the website, then all the product purchase information can be accessed through these reports. You can track information like total revenue, e-commerce revenue, and total ad revenue over time. And then we have an option to see total purchases, first time purchases, to compare these two. And on the side, we have total revenue and e-commerce revenue again. Then we have average purchase revenue per user to see that trend, how it's moving, if it's improving or not. And we can see that for total purchases and first time purchases, just like we have here. And then we have item purchased by item name. So these are the top selling items, and we can see the total number of e-commerce purchases against each item name. And then we have e-commerce purchase by item list name and item promotion name and order coupon. So if you pass this information in your Google Tag Manager with the help of data layer, then you can see all these information. Now, if you move to the e-commerce purchase report, you can see the aggregated data such as your top selling products, their views, revenues, and other metrics. It allows you to quickly view your total revenue and easily track the performance of each revenue source. We also have an option to add a secondary dimension here. Let's say you are interested in looking at the item performance from a specific source. For example, I go with these item names and I add a traffic source as session source medium. So I can have a look like from which channel these purchases are happening. For example, here, the Google CPC is actually helping us in selling this specific product, and we can see the total number of purchases as well. So if I sort this by item purchase, I can see Google Cloud Sticker is the top selling product using the source Google Organic. So that's the way to analyze this data. And similarly, we can have a look for different other sources like geography, general, demographics, time, and traffic sources. So this could be helpful in understanding like which item is selling the most and from which specific channel the users are coming from. Now we have in-app purchases and publisher ads. It is not available in this demo property. So let's move to the property that we created earlier to see these sections. First, we have in-app purchases, where the purchases made within your mobile app are tracked, and it allows you to view and analyze data related to these app users' purchases. On the other side, the publisher ads provides information about the ads you have placed in your mobile application, including the number of users who have engaged and the revenue generated by each ad, which helps you to understand the performance of your ads in your application. So these two sections will only be helpful if you're tracking the app data. Otherwise, you can just skip this part and move to the next section. Then the last step of the funnel is retention, and these reports help you see how often and for how long people use your website or application after their first time. It also helps you see how much money people bring in after their first visit. The user retention by cohort graph shows how many people keep using your website. A group of people is called a cohort, and in this case, the day one line shows how many people come back to the website or app the next day after the first visit. And the day 7 line shows how many people come back to the website or app 7 days after the first visit. And then we have the user engagement by cohort. This graph tells you how long people usually spend on your website after their first visit. Moving further, we have this graph that shows how many people come back to the website each day for 42 days after their first visit. This graph starts with 100%, which means all people come back on the first day, and it gets lower day by day as people stop coming back. And similarly, this user engagement chart shows how long people usually spend on the website each day for 42 days after their first visit. Here, the average time is calculated only for the people who come back and not for everyone. And then the last one is the lifetime value, which shows how much money people bring in during their first 120 days on the website or application. You can use this chart to see how valuable users are based on how much more money they bring in and how successful they are. Alright, so that was all on the monetization and retention. And now let's cover user collection that contains demographics and technology standard reports. If you've activated Google Signals and have been collecting data, you will have access to additional information about your users, including their gender and interests. This report will help you find out if people in certain places are interested in what you're selling, what things people who use your website or app like, or what language most of the people who use your website or app speak. On the other side, the demographic details report will show you the country your users are coming from and their performance over time. All these metrics in this table can be measured for this dimension, and if you want to see them by region or city instead of a country, you can click this button and make the change. You can also add secondary dimension by clicking a plus sign. Additionally, you can search for a place or apply a filter to look for any specific result in this table. And then the last type of standard report in Google Analytics is the tech report. When you click on it, you can see information about the different types of devices and softwares people use to visit your website. Things like what type of operating system, platform, browsers, and other information about the device. And this tech details report here, this tells you what kind of browser people use when they visit your website. This can include information like Chrome, Safari, Edge, etc. and their performances over time. Just like demographic report, you can customize these cards, filter this out to a specific value, or add a secondary dimension. And that's everything on the standard reports. And now let's learn to create your own custom reports using the funnel exploration section. So click on Explore to start using it. You can use explorations to find answers to complicated questions and gain a deeper understanding of your customers' actions. Here you'll find different ways to explore and analyze data called exploration techniques. One of them is called freeform, another is funnel exploration, then path exploration, and there are also other options like segment overlap, cohort, and user lifetime. There's one more option called User Explorer, but it cannot be used in the demo account for privacy reasons. So let's learn about these techniques that are supported by explorations. First, we have freeform exploration. Here, the freeform allows you to look at your data in a layout you're familiar with, similar to a spreadsheet. You can also use different ways to show the data, like bar charts, pie charts, line charts, scatter plots, and maps to show geographical data. Then we have cohort exploration. Here, the cohort analysis allows you to gain insights into the behavior and performance of group of users that have similar characteristics. And if you go to funnel exploration, it helps you see the steps people take to complete tasks on your website or application. This can help you make the user experience better and figure out which groups of people are performing well or not doing well. Then we have segment overlap. It allows you to see how different groups of users are related to each other. This technique can help you find new groups of users that have specific characteristics. The User Explorer lets you look at the people who are a part of the groups you created or imported. You can also investigate the individual actions of users. And then we have Path Exploration, which allows you to see the different steps users take as they use your website or application. It helps you to visualize the user journey. And the User Lifetime Analysis allows you to examine the behavior and value of users over the entire time they are a customer. Alright, so now let's click on Freeform Reports here to understand the exploration area in detail. Basically, an exploration area is made up of three parts. On the left side, you'll see a panel that allows you to choose what information you want to see in the exploration, such as dimensions, metrics, and segments. You can also choose the time period you want to examine in the variables panel. The second column is the tab settings panel that has various options which help you set up the tabs that you have selected. You can pick the method you want to use, add information from the variables panel, and change settings that are specific to the method you choose. And then this large space on the right side of the screen shows you the data you selected using the method you picked. This canvas can have multiple tabs, which allows you to use multiple techniques at once in a single exploration. For today's video, we'll be just focusing upon one of the techniques, let's say funnel exploration. So let me click on it and let's see how the funnel exploration technique looks like. And here I can see the funnel exploration report created by GA4. So on the left, you'll see the segments, US direct traffic, paid channels, mobile traffic, and tablet traffic. So we can use these as a filter. I just need to move around from here to here. I just created the segment comparison, so it will just be shown for the United States. And similarly, I can create a new segment from this plus section. You have an option to create user segment, session segment, event segment, and all these other suggested segments as well. For example, let's say if I just want to look at the data for direct traffic, then I can move this direct traffic from variables to the tab settings. So I can now see the segment comparisons. First, we have first open visit for US segment, and then we have on the bottom, we have for direct traffic. And you can see the comparison, how many number of users coming from this specific device from mobile, and this is from the United States versus how many number of people are coming from direct traffic on mobile. So that's the way to compare these metrics with different segments, and I can remove it from here as well if I want to, and just remove it. For the breakdown, we have this option here. So it says device breakdown, but I can change this to something else as well. Let's say I want to look at the breakdown of country. So I can just bring country from here to here and just remove device category first and bring country from here to here. So instead of device category, it will now break down the funnel into country. So now we can see how many number of users are coming from United States and Canada and India. We can see the completion rate against these countries. And for these steps, if you look at here, these are the steps that are already added by GA4 on this specific report. But if you don't want to look at a specific step, we can just click on the cross button and it will be removed from this step section. So you can create all these steps here and see the breakdown on this specific panel. And you can also apply a filter from this option here. So if you click on it, you have an option to apply any specific dimension, event name, country, and you can just select country. Let's say add contains United States, then we can apply. So now it will be filtered out to United States only. The only difference here is like that was a segment breakdown, but here we are filtering this out. So if you want to look at multiple segments, you can do this from this segment comparison option. But if you just want to filter this out to a specific value, let's say users coming from paid channels or Google CPC or a specific Facebook ads, then you can apply a filter and look at the data for that specific condition. So we can also click here on the open funnel. The difference here is a closed funnel only allows entry at the initial step, while an open funnel allows entry at any point in the funnel process. And you'll see the difference in the data collected on this graph here. All right, so that's on the funnel exploration technique, but there's much more to do in this explore section than just this, but that would be more on the advanced side and out of the scope for this beginner's tutorial video. But one more thing before we conclude this, when you're using exploration reports, there's some limitations, like each user can only make up to 200 individual explorations per property, and also a maximum of 500 shared exploration can be created per property. You can add up to 10 segments per exploration, and you can use up to 10 filters per tab only. By using explorations, you can quickly make ad hoc queries, easily change between techniques, sort and analyze data, focus on the most important information using filters and segments, create new segments and groups, share your findings with others who have access to the same Google Analytics property, and export the data for use in the other programs. The advertising workspace in GA4 can help you learn more about how much money you make from your ads, make smart choices about how to spend your advertising budget, and understand how different ads are performing. These reports will also help you understand how conversions happen through referrals, searches, and ads, how long it took for customers to go from first interest to purchase, and the most common paths customers take to conversion. So let's dive into this directly. The first we have is advertising snapshot, where you can get a quick overview of the business metrics. It shows which sources drive the most sales and their role in the customer's journey. And then there is an insight card where you will find the custom and automated insights related to conversions. Currently it's showing the data for all the conversion event, but let's say you just want to understand the performance for only purchases as a conversion, then you can click here and select purchase and click apply. Now the data will look a bit different as per purchase conversion. If you go to the performance collection, there's an all channel report where you will see conversion related metrics including CPA and ROS for all of these default channel groups. So here you can measure which particular channels are getting you the most conversions. And if you have connected your Google Analytics 4 property to your Google Ads account, you'll also see the cost data with calculated metrics against Google Ads channel. In our admin panel overview, we talked about cost data import. So if you do that, you will be able to see the cost here for other channels too, along with these calculated metrics. The cost data could be from Meta ads or any other paid channel. And to see more granular data, you can use this drop-down to select another dimension like campaign or a source platform. Moving further, we have this attribution collection where you'll find two reports, model comparison and conversion paths. Let's understand each one of them. So let's click on model comparison. You can use this report to compare how different attribution models affect the evaluation of your marketing channels. And if you don't know, attribution is a process of assigning credit for conversions to various ads, clicks, and other touchpoints in a customer's journey. And an attribution model is a criteria or a set of rules to determine how credit for conversions is assigned to touchpoints in conversion paths. So here you can see the performance comparison between two attribution models, like this conversion and revenue are assigned as per cross-channel last click model. But here, these conversions and revenue are attributed using cross-channel data-driven model. On the right side, you can see the change in conversions and revenue between these two attribution models. And if you want to track these metrics with other attribution models, you can use this dropdown and select from this list and see the side-to-side comparison. Like I click on time decay here, then you can see the data changes as per the new selected model. And also this conversion column includes all the conversions that you marked as conversion, which could include lead, purchase, subscription, etc. But you just want to track this for purchase, for example, then don't forget to select purchase only from this conversion event dropdown here. You also have an option to change the reporting time from here at the top, where you can apply the filter to show the data as per interaction time or conversion time. The difference here is like conversion time refers to all the actions leading to a conversion that happened within the specific date range, whereas in the interaction time, it refers to all the events that took place within the chosen date range. When the date range selected is close to the current date, the conversion counts may vary between different models. By default, it's conversion time, and I would recommend to keep it like that. Alright, now let's go to the conversion paths, where you can learn how people turn into customers, basically their path to conversion, and also how different attribution models affect this process with this option at the top. This conversion path report is divided into two parts, this visualization part and this table part. This graphical representation allows for a quick understanding of the role of different channels in initiating, assisting, and finalizing conversions. And this is following the cross-channel data-driven model, and based on that, we are seeing this data. But if I change this to, let's say, for last click, we can see that all the conversions happening now attributed to last click channels, and there's nothing available on these two. And just like that, we can go to first click to see how the first attributed channels are responsible for these touch points and will be credited as per this model. But let's get it back to data-driven, which is the recommended model. And based on that, we can see how the contribution of each channel looks like for these conversions. And now at the bottom, this data displays the detailed customer journey, including metrics such as the number of conversions, revenue generated, time taken for conversions, and the number of touch points involved in the conversion process. Like we can see here, if we sort this by conversions, direct is at top, followed by organic search, and then paid search, and then all of these channels. And we can see the days to conversion metric here and the touch points that led to conversion. And if you're interested in looking this for campaign, we can do this from here as well. You also have an option to filter the path length. By default, it's set to all the touch points, but you can click on it and change the path length condition from here for any specific analysis. So finally, everyone can choose their own way of measuring success within the advertising reports. The choice you make in these reports will not change how others see the data or how it's calculated in the other reports. And then at the last, we have this configure settings, where if you click on it, you will find out that all the configure settings has moved to the admin panel. We already discussed this in our admin panel overview. So if you haven't watched that video, click the link in the description. Here you will find the events, conversions, audiences, custom definitions, and debug view, which are now under property settings in admin as it says. And we discussed this in our admin panel overview when we were talking about this property settings. So that's the complete GA4 walkthrough. And now we'll be moving towards the custom data event setup, audience creation, data stream configuration, and more. Make sure you have GTM account set up. If not, click the link in the description to watch our Google Tag Manager setup tutorial video. Alright, first we need GA4 measurement ID for tracking. So let's go to analytics.google.com and sign in with your Google account. Once logged in, you will see a list of your GA4 properties. Choose the one you want to track. Click on data streams under the property column. You might see a list of data stream for your property, and each data stream has a unique measurement ID, which you'll use to track your website. Then click on the data stream you want to track. In this case, I only have one, so I'll click here. Then you will see the measurement ID in the stream details section. Copy this code and you're ready to install your GA4 tracking code on your website. Now let's go to Google Tag Manager. First log into your GTM account and go to your container. Click on tags and new. Choose Google Analytics GA4 configuration from the tag template option. Enter your GA4 tracking ID in the fields provided. And to create a trigger, click on triggering, select all pages as the trigger type, name your tag and click save. Now click submit, enter a version name and description, and then click publish. And that's it. You have successfully installed your GA4 tracking code using Google Tag Manager. And to check if the GA4 tracking code is working correctly, go to the preview section, enter your website URL, click connect and it will start connecting to the website window. Once the website is loaded, GA4 tag will appear here if it's firing correctly. So here it is. It's working and we are good to go. GA4 provides a powerful platform for tracking e-commerce conversions, but it can be overwhelming to set up. That's where Google Tag Manager comes in, and with GTM, you can easily create custom events and data layers to track purchase conversions in GA4. First, we need to create a custom data layer, basically to track purchases. So this code here is a purchase data layer that we'll be pushing in Shopify and then create a custom event in GTM. What exactly are we looking here? So we are defining a custom purchase event, and then this e-commerce is a JavaScript object that holds data for these purchases. It contains information like transaction ID, value, tax, shipping, currency, and items purchased. This data is then pushed to a data layer, which is an array used to store and pass data to different analytics tools. I'll add this document link to the description and you can copy the code directly from there. Alright, so we need this tag to be fired on the thank you page after a successful transaction. So let's log into your Shopify admin, go to your settings located at the bottom left, then select checkout and navigate to order status page, and in this additional script section, paste the data layer code directly below the GTM container code. Now let's go back to Google Tag Manager and create a custom event. So log into your GTM account, create a new tag and choose Google Analytics 4, Google Analytics GA4 event as the tag type. Choose the GA4 property you want to send data to, and in the event name field, enter purchase. Then add the event parameters if you want to capture additional information. You can use a data layer variable here to reference these parameter names. For example, here we can see its transaction ID. So you need to create a data layer with the name ecommerce.transaction_ID. And then click on this plus icon, and then I can choose this plus icon at the top and create a new data layer variable from here. So once this is done, you need to enter the data layer variable name, which should match with this name on this data layer variable here. So it should be ecommerce.transaction_ID. So once this is done, just click on save and then go back to your tag setup and just enter the parameter name as transaction ID. And similarly, we can do this for other events as well. Let's say I do this for value and tax and shipping and currency as well as for the items. So now this is done, and you can pass all these information in the event parameters so that when a transaction happens, it not just tracks purchases, but also all of these variables. And then you can use this information in GA4 or any other analytical tool. And then we can add a trigger. To create a purchase trigger, we'll use the same event name we pushed in the data layer. Like here, the event name is a purchase. So let's create the trigger using the exact name purchase. And that's it. You can save the tag, and before publishing it to the live website, you can verify this tag using preview mode or the debug view in the GA4 admin section. You need to make a test purchase to see if it's firing correctly. So let's do this here. Let me do the test purchase. So first I need to click on this preview mode, enter the website URL, and then go to the website and do the transaction here. I go here and add this product to the cart, do the purchase, and let's see if it's firing correctly. Alright, so transaction happened, and if I go back to my preview mode of the GTM, I can see, alright, so now it's working. Also, you'll find this event in the GA4 event section where you can go and mark it as conversion. So just log into your GA4 property, choose events under the property column, and you should see purchase event here, and then you can mark that as conversion using this option. And that's it. With these steps, you're well on your way to tracking and optimizing your e-commerce conversions like a pro. With GA4, you can easily create custom audiences based on specific user behaviors, demographics, and more. To create a new audience, you need to go to the left sidebar in GA4 and select admin, and then audiences, and from there you click on new audience, and you will have two options: create a custom audience or use one of the suggested audiences. The suggested audiences include general, templates, and predictive. But let's say you want to create a custom audience of users from India who have purchased a specific t-shirt on your website. So let's click on create a custom audience and click here add a new condition, and you would select the country ID dimension from this geography and set it match to India. Then add another condition for the purchase event and copy the t-shirt name from your website and add this as the item name here. And now this setup will show you that 50% of your users are from India and have purchased this t-shirt, bringing your audience size down to one individual. And remember, you can also set the membership duration to anything from 1 day to 540 days, or add an audience trigger to update this based on specific conditions. Now you can save this audience and that's it. Once you have created an audience in GA4, you can easily use it in other platforms like Google Ads by linking Google Ads to GA4 with this section here. Just click on link and connect your Google Ads account. And by using GA4 audiences in Google Ads, you can target specific segments of your website visitors, increasing the likelihood of conversions. For example, you can target people who have visited your site in the past 30 days and have spent at least 1 minute on a page. This allows you to deliver more relevant and personalized advertisements to your audience, increasing their chances of taking action. Another way to create a new audience is through exploration section in GA4. Here, you can create a blank exploration and build a segment around it, and then create an audience from that segment. For example, you can create a user segment and repeat the steps that we discussed earlier, and then save the audience. In conclusion, creating audiences in GA4 is a great way to understand your website visitors and deliver personalized experience. Whether you want to create a custom audience or use a suggested template, GA4 makes it easy to get started. GA4 has a lot of powerful features that can help you get the most out of your analytics data. These tools and features are designed to help users make better informed decisions based on the information collected from their websites and mobile applications. So let's look at some of the best tips and best practices for GA4. Tip number 1, define your objectives and KPIs. Before you start setting up GA4, it's important to have a clear understanding of what you want to achieve with your analytics. What are your goals? What are the key metrics that you want to track? Having a clear set of objectives and KPIs in mind will help you make sure that your GA4 setup is focused and effective. Tip number 2, enable all relevant GA4 features. GA4 offers a wide range of features that can help you track different aspects of your website performance. From tracking custom events to monitoring your website speed to integrating with Google Ads, there's a lot that GA4 can do. Make sure to enable all the features that are relevant to your goals so that you have a complete picture of your website's performance. Third, use GA4's built-in conversion tracking. GA4 built-in conversion tracking makes it easy to track important actions on your website, such as form submissions and more. With conversion tracking, you'll be able to see which of your marketing campaigns are driving the most conversions and which pages on your website are the most effective at converting visitors into customers. Fourth, use the GA4 debug mode. The GA4 debug mode is a powerful tool that can help you troubleshoot issues with your GA4 setup. It provides real-time insights into what's being sent to GA4 and helps you identify any errors or missing data that may be affecting your reports. Number 5, regularly review your reports. Make sure to regularly review your GA4 reports. This will help you stay up to date with your website's performance, identify any trends or patterns, and make data-driven decisions to improve your website's results. 6, customize your dashboards. Create custom dashboards that align with your business objectives and display the most relevant metrics for your team. 7th, utilize custom dimensions and metrics. Custom dimensions and metrics allows you to track customer data that is not available in GA4 by default. You can create custom dimensions and metrics to track specific events, goals, and attributes of your website. 8th, use cross-device tracking. GA4 allows you to track users across multiple devices, giving you a more complete picture of your customer journey. This can help you understand which marketing channels are driving conversions and how users interact with your website on different devices. 9th, implement tagging best practices. Properly tagging your website is critical for accurate tracking and reporting. Be sure to tag the buttons, forms, and links on your website that you want to use, and use descriptive and meaningful names for your tags. And finally, utilize GA4's native reports. GA4 comes with a number of built-in reports that can provide valuable insights into your website performance. Take advantage of these reports and use them to inform your decision making and optimize your website. So there you have it, some of the best tips and best practices for getting the most out of Google Analytics 4. And that's a wrap on the complete Google Analytics 4 tutorial for beginners. I hope you now have a solid understanding of how to use GA4 to track and analyze your website data. Remember, the key to successful data analysis is having accurate and organized data. And with GA4, you now have the tools to make it happen. Keep practicing and experimenting with the platform, and soon you'll be a data analysis pro. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and until next time, happy analyzing.